But I think that there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk where men can get the short end of the stick if they are the breadwinner and if there are kids involved and if there's no prenup. If there's a divorce.
What? Okay, so you're already going into this, I feel like, as you are definitely somebody that is single.
Yes.
You are going into this not with the person in mind, but as a, like, marriage equals exhibit A, exhibit B, exhibit C. And, like, these are the compartments and these are, like, what gets checked off when you are married. Versus when you are with somebody that is truly your equal, your soulmate, the person that makes you be a better person. Mm-hmm. There's somebody that you want to grow with, to build with, to enjoy life with. And it's not about a prenup or money or who makes more. It's a partnership.
So, well, here's the thing is that, I think about, people in my life that have gone through, divorce, right? I have people in my life who are currently married, but tell me that they're not happy. Mm-hmm. If you look at, like, the statistics, 50% divorce rate, 70% initiated by not the man, right?
Really?
Mm-hmm. 70% initiated by women. But even if you don't even think about that one, if you just think about the divorce rate itself, 50%, like that's a lot, more than what it used to be. So I just, I think about the outcome because I feel like, you always have to think about the outcome and that it's a possibility. And the thing is not only is it a possibility, but when it happens, it can strip off years of your working life because of if you were the breadwinner and, a prenup wasn't there, then after a certain amount of time, there's like a split of assets. So it's like, I have to think about that outcome.
Why are you going into marriage thinking about the end of your marriage?
Because if I think about some of the components of that I think that you get within marriage, I think you can also achieve those in a long-term relationship. But so when I talk about, like, I ask about the benefits of marriage, it's like, okay, well, what is the actual benefit of jumping over the broom and taking this relationship to the next level when if I leave this relationship where it is and we decide to amicably split at the end of it or not amicably split at the end of it, there's not like a ripping of assets, there's not a splitting of finances.
So you're talking about marriage as like a contractual agreement with you, this person, and the government, basically. Not the love aspect of it. Well, then fuck it. Like, benefits of marriage in that regard are like tax break.
But you can have love without the marriage, right? So
absolutely. Like, you have to have love, like, before the marriage. Yeah.
Like, way before, right. Yeah. But, there's concepts of marriage that, I feel like have been put into what is our culture and society today that didn't exist as much. And there's portions of the world that still kind of live under that, which is like, they do it for dowry, right? There's like a goat involved or, right?
Dowry.
Like, dowry. Yeah, you know what I meant. There's like, there's like land involved.
A chest full of quilts.
Yeah. It's all of that stuff, right?
But that's why.
And they don't know each other, perhaps. You know what I mean? So there's that concept, which is the more contractual agreement.
Well, I think, like, that's contractual, but also so cultural. And they're also in those countries where, like, you didn't know the person beforehand, but it was arranged. The divorce rate in those countries is so minimal compared to ours, where I didn't know this person before. There wasn't love that we had, but we were able to build a foundation or not. But so much of it is based off of what is acceptable within your culture. And this is who your parents chose, and there were all these other factors that went into that, and that's why we've ultimately stayed together. Where I feel like here, there's so much of, like, Instagram this,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to think that my life is perfect and that
That's real.
my wedding is amazing, and you Pinterest things and, you know, have all of these boards for my first wedding dress, the reception dress, then the third dress that I change into, and these thousands of dollars worth of flowers, and you know, like
my concern is someone who wants to get married for the wedding.
Yeah. And that's happens a lot.
It happens a lot. I have a coworker, and for the last year and a half, literally that would be her topic of conversation.
That's all year.
And then, you know, she got to the day, and then you never heard of it after that. And it's not like a conversation about how happy that she is now married. That's never the conversation. But literally, it was the wedding, the honeymoon. When she came back for the next week, 2 weeks, showing everyone the pictures. You know, she had a Google Photos album, which she's probably never used before that. It was linking it out to people, sending emails. I mean, all of this. And then, you know, but it was never a conversation after that of how happy that she now is in marriage. But I think you hit on a good point, is like, you know, a lot of people do things for the validation of others to fit well within the culture or the society that they live in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that would be one of my concerns if I was marriage bound, which you already know I'm not. No.
Not just yet.
What?
Just get you that.
Good. But
we'll get you long-term relationship bound at least. Shit.
Long-term relationship bound. You know. I'm working on me. But I do think that camera's on, by the way. I do. There it is. Hey, I do think that, you know, that there's, you know, in breaking it down the way that I was in like a contractual agreement. So now that you understand like where my mind is with it, and, you know, it gets a lot more complicated with children. It gets complicated with children with or without the marriage.
Yes.
Right. But, you know, we have a lot of examples in pop culture of dudes being taken to the cleaners. We have a lot of examples of at least my own. I don't know about your background. I think your parents
they're still together.
They're still together, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of examples that I have where fathers have been taken to the cleaners, men have been taken to the cleaners, right? So like, I think that's what gives me pause when I think about the institution of marriage. And then I'm just like, well, the least risk option for me the no risk option for me is not even to consider it. So that's why I always try to ask people, like, what are the, you know, benefits that they see is there something that I'm not considering? Because I feel like with every investment, you have to consider, well, what happens if that investment doesn't pan out the way that you thought?
So I think you would have to consider who you're marrying, because there's some parts of me that are just traditional, mm-hmm. and I want to be married. I want mm-hmm. to be married. I want that, like, not to put it in such like black white terms, contractual agreement, but one thing, like, I wanted a ring, and ring comes with marriage. Ring doesn't necessarily come with long-term relationships.
Promise ring.
And is a promise ring a diamond?
As long as it's a diamond, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Hey, she married.
What?
What's it been like 2-3 years now?
It'll be 5 years.
5?
Yeah, it'll be
That's
5
right, 'cause
years
your oldest
in June.
is 2 plus. Right.
16 months.
I was close.
They're back to back.
Close. I was
Basically.
close.
Basically. So with me, I didn't even consider a long-term relationship route. Mm-hmm. It was like, I love you and I want to spend the rest of my time with you, the rest of my life with you. When are we getting married? You know, like, and also part of it is to see your parents and who you grew up with or what you grew up around. And my parents are still married. His parents are still married. We're very lucky in that regard. Mm-hmm. Out of my aunts and uncles, you know, like, both aunts are still married. Uncle, a little less so.
He's a little less.
But like now he's married and, you know, like they're super happy and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But my grandparents on both sides, married through until husbands passed away, until my grandfathers passed away. But, you know, like, we're happy. It's not like they were in unhappy marriages. So that was just something that I also had an older sister. She got married, like, graduated college, got married, got a job, bought a house, all within like 6 weeks of each other, you know, and I knew I didn't want to get married that young, but to be able to see that young love. So by the time I got married, they had been married for like 8 years at that point, and in, you know, a happy, we're equals type of relationship, because the marriage that my parents have is not one that I would want. Same thing with Brian's parents. Like, I love them and they are amazing, but I feel like the role separation there was so, like, we get married and then when we have kids and you quit your job and you stay at home, and whether or not, you know, it's so much more complicated than just that, but that is the outcome of both of those relationships. And with Brian and I, it is never an option for me to stop working. I love working. I love what I do. I love being able to provide that value. And so it means I'm not cooking dinner 7 nights a week. You know, like, you're doing half of that. I'm not changing all the diapers. I'm not doing all the laundry. We have a partnership in our relationship, and that, you know, married or not, I think, at least for me, it's so much about a partnership.
Let me ask you a question, because there's, you know, I think what you described is, you know, your parents had different rule set than what you and Brian have, right? So I'm assuming that your parents had much more of a traditional, right? Did your mom not work and your dad worked, and your mom cooked, cleaned 7 days a week, and he worked 7 days a week?
Yep.
And then some. So let me ask you a question, like, what about that do you feel like is not ideal for you? So
I think just off the bat that I'm not trying to stay at home with these kids all day. There are some women that I feel like are born to, like, they want to get married and have a baby and, like, stay at home with their babies. And for me, it just wasn't like that. One of the things that I love the most about my children is that they're the manifestation of the love and the life that Brian and I have created and supported, that allowed us that afforded us the ability to be able to raise children, we feel like, in a positive light. But also, you know, we created this together. You guys are here because we loved each other first. And that's so special to me, versus just I wanted to have a kid. I wanted to have a baby. I wanted to have a kid and raise a family with this specific man.
Got it. Okay.
And so with that, like, we did this together. So I'm not gonna be changing all the diapers, and I'm the only one that's up in the middle of the night just because I'm providing the food for this kid. You know, like, I wake him up, he changes the diaper, hands her off to me to feed her. Like, we are doing this together, equally.
So, and that wasn't equal, so to speak, like, in the way that you saw her kind of growing up. And I'm asking because, like, I didn't really see it. Like, everyone, like I was saying before, like, everyone in my family, like, you know, got divorced or never got married. You know what I mean? So I didn't really see. But, you know, as I've been doing, you know, the YouTube and seeing, like, the different kind of roles that folks play within it, and, you know, I question, like which is the most correct. And I think what I'm coming to is that a lot of it is just dependent upon the particular partnership.
There isn't a most correct, because my mom, when my sister had her first son, and I was 25, and she did the same thing, that, like, Omari changes all the diapers because I'm out here being a feeding machine 24/7. And I remember my mom commenting almost judgy, and, you know, like, oh, Ashley's out here making Omari do all the diapers. And yeah, because this is a partnership. And I think she says it partly because it's jarring to her that a man would be changing a diaper, and then almost a little bit of your dad would have never done that. And like, honestly, my dad's probably changed more of my kids' diapers than he changed of my own. It was very much like, oh, I work. I work outside the house. So you work inside the house. And I'm tired and I'm doing, and part of it is what you require of your partner. Like, you're required to do this. You know, if
so let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So let's say that you know, you met Brian, fell in love, but the only difference is that his picture of marriage and raising children is that you had much more of a traditionalist role, right? Would that have changed anything? Would you have assumed that role, or just would not have?
And I mean, it's naive to not have those conversations before you get married. You know, it shouldn't
That's
be
big. That's big facts.
yeah, like, oh, this is the first time that we're talking about this, and it turns out we're on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Right. I thought you were gonna stay at home. What's up? Yeah.
I feel like somebody getting married at like 21 maybe, but we were 29, we got married. You know, like, I'm a lot more established, he's more established, we both have like assets and liabilities at this point, and are able to articulate what we do and don't want. And we also had, his sister had her first child, my sister had her first child, so we're able to see both our parents' relationships, also peer-ish sibling relationships, and had conversations around, do you want kids? What does that look like? Would you want to, you know, like, leave work? Would, you know, and even would he want to leave work? And he thought for a second, like, I don't know, maybe I could. Never mind, because it's hard. Being at home alone with kids is so hard. But
I feel like the only hard part about it is that you're alone with the kids and you have to maintain sanity.
And toddlers, do you know why toddlers have so much energy? Because they suck your energy. They take it all. Like, just running after them, trying to entertain them, being the no-no police all over the place. It is rough. But thank you for volunteering to babysit. So, because
I babysit
that's
dogs.
what that sounded like to me.
I babysit dogs.
That's what that sounded like to me.
You don't want your children's over here in the graveyard. You know why I call it the graveyard?
That's gonna get broken. Why?
It's where I catch bodies.
Do not let my kid in your bedroom.
No black lights in there.
Evie, stop touching all this stuff.
Don't move, Evie.
No.
So let me ask you another question too, and I think like you know, so it sounds like you have a much more of like a fluid partnership in terms of thinking through roles. It's kind of always a conversation that needs to be had when. Right, like, so communication must be really, really important in that type of, right, like, as opposed to more of a traditionalist, where roles are, you pretty much understand, you know, kind of going into it, who needs to do what,
right,
you know, so do you see, like, difficulty in that enhanced layer of conversation? And then, like, also, let me ask you a question, who led, like, did you guys just start talking about it and it uniquely came together, or is it like, Brian at first was up here like, well, no, I think I should be doing much more like the cutting the grass, the taking out the trash, and you should be doing a little bit more of the cleaning, right? Like, or is it like, just highlight that, because it's not traditional. And
there are some things that you just kind of fall into. Like, he does cut the grass. He knows I'm not going to be out there with a lawnmower. There's some aspects of cooking that, like, I'm just better at, or cleaning, that things that bother him, like, it bothers him if he comes home and the grass is, like, not tidy. You know, like, he's looking at the neighbors and like, ugh, I gotta get out there and cut the grass. I don't care. I don't care at all. But in the inside, it bothers me if, you know, the house is a mess. And I will pick up or tidy up or whatever. And there's some parts where he might ask for my help with something outside. I might ask for his help on something inside. So it's not always we sit down and say, you do this and I do this and you do this. It's some stuff you just more fall into, but then there's other times where, like, I need your help. Like, on Saturday, we have to do X, Y, and Z for the house or for the kids. And, you know, like, it is what it is. But out of these hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of conversations that you have pre-marriage, post-marriage, pre-kids for sure. You know, like you just learn a person and you're able to, there's no baby that's right there and now we have to figure out who is going to do X, Y, and Z for the baby. You're able to just, without the pressure of an immediate need for a solution, just, you know, fluidly have a conversation and see how we can like figure out what's going to happen. And being flexible when things do happen in terms of what's okay and what's not okay. Right. And that communication is key.
It's key.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you another question too, and it's because I do know additional information of like where you guys met. So you guys were coming out of school. So you came out of school and then you started working at the same place.
No, he initially started at a company called...
Okay, so but you guys pretty much started at pretty much the same age, around. You came out school pretty much the same like level of where you wanted to get into your career, starting out, and then you started pursuing that forward. Let me ask you a different question, and because I think like a lot of times, you know, I'm sure you're aware, like some dudes feel insecure if they come across a woman who's, you know, doing exceptionally well in their career, like strong, independent woman, making a ton of money, and they can get insecure within that because they feel like, and these are more like traditionalist dudes, they feel like, you know, what can I provide if she is providing wholly and truly for herself? And this may be an awkward question because you are more non-traditionalist in your thinking, but do you think like status plays a role kind of going into a relationship, and how would that have changed the dynamic? Like, let's say if you were the big boss coming in and you met him, like, do you feel like it still would have worked with your personalities?
I think so. I want you because I want you. I don't want you because I need you.
You don't think there's like an ingrained... So like for me, for example, I noticed that a lot more women come around if they know that I've attained at least a little bit of success in my life.
Oh, like, I mean, like if he was a deadbeat, would I still be... Or if I'm out here just making tons more money than him? No, that wouldn't have... Because I know what I want to do, and as long as you're okay with me being aspirational in my dreams, and like we're good. And if your dreams land you to here versus my dreams that financially land me to here, like that's fine. Where we have a problem is like I have no growth goals. I just want to stay, you know, like stay right here. I don't aspire to do better for myself, to want more for myself. Then that's where it comes into a problem. But like financially, monetarily,
like it wouldn't have mattered.
And I feel like it's more for the other side. Like, are you comfortable being with a woman that makes more than you, that has a higher title than you, especially when we are at the same company?
I feel like as a dude, you know, there's an ego thing that kind of goes in there.
Exactly.
Especially because we're just naturally a little bit more competitive, and especially if you are a dude that has much more of a a traditionalist view on
where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they might have way more of a problem with it. Or if your money just surpasses God, like if you were Oprah walking around here, you know, like I'd be like, I'll get over my insecurities.
Does anybody? Nobody hears a peep out of Stedman. Yeah. Like we don't have to be married. This is my bitch.
Right.
It's fine.
No, if you Oprah, I'm getting married. I'm taking half.
You think she's not gonna have an airtight prenup?
Nah, she gonna trust me. She gonna trust me.
Oh, is that what you think? No.
It's interesting though, and I appreciate this conversation because. You know, so I think like here's my confusion: is marriage by definition is a tradition, and by it being a tradition, there is what I think is some antiquated benefits associated with it. But you know, people still want to get married. But you have a non-traditionalist roles within that marriage. So you know, in thinking about that, it's like it's to me, it's a relationship with non-traditional roles, and you would have been happy whether or not marriage was involved. but you wanted to lock together. So I think I'm thinking through, is it just the lock? Is that the benefit?
Honestly, I mean, I was kind of surprised that you were talking about marriage versus long-term benefits, because I didn't even, like, it was literally the natural progression. You know, for me, I don't even know if I really thought out, do I want to enter into this government contract, because marriage means so much more than that to me, versus just boiling it down to we're signing this certificate and then going from there. But
and I think that's the problem with you know, when you say, like, when you know, because the past like 6 years, every time we talk about me getting in relationships, you're like, but you're gonna get married, right? And I think that's the thing, is that the things that maybe that I'm bringing up in this conversation is the components of it that I think about all the time.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And versus
not the love.
Right.
That's not what I'm thinking about.
Cause shut up all that noise.
Right. That's not.
Versus, like, marriage to me is that partnership, that growth, that love. Versus for you that, like, it's a contract agreement, and it means this bitch is gonna take half of my stuff. Like, I mean, technically that is what could happen, but.
And I'm more in the wheelhouse for that because, you know, I'm 34 right now, and typically I'm reaching down into the 20s, you know. That's typically where I'm going with it, right? Yeah. So, like, generally, you know, money can be correlated with age. So I probably would be the breadwinner in my situations, right? So, like, and I got to think about that. I'm looking at, you know, posts on Instagram of women who make it a job out of marrying, divorce after a couple of years, alimony,
and getting money.
Yeah. And it's a business, you know, because you know why? So you're a person of high integrity.
Yes.
There's a lot of human beings that don't have high integrity. There's a lot of people who look just like us that are scammers, and they're looking for the quicker way in order to achieve something. Like, maybe we'll take a time out too, because I'm gonna introduce you to some content on the internet where it's literally YouTube channels that are dedicated towards instructing women how to lie to men to get into their pockets.
But, so, first of all, yes, I 1000% believe all that. But if you are going after a certain type of woman, then I think you're opening yourself up to having, you know, like, to being scammed. Versus, like, with Brian, never would have in 1,000 years thought that this would be the person that I would be with, but you just have to, like, open yourself up to these new experiences and to genuine friendships before necessarily, like, just going right into dating, and, like, that doesn't have to happen. But if you meet somebody at a bar and she's talking like thought and looking like thought, chances are
you can't expect nothing other. Well, here's the thing is I've come across, and maybe it's just, you know, the degree of knowledge that I had at particular junctures of my life, but meeting someone that I felt like I had a good understanding of who they are, and then having the rug pulled from out under me at a particular junction, right? And, you know, and I say to myself, like, I think that I have the tools in my toolkit to readily identify those personality types. Yeah. But I also know on the other side of the coin is that I keep people at bay during the assessment period. You see what I'm saying? So, like, some might think that requires therapy. I think no, it's a good defense mechanism to weed out the bullshit. You know, it's slowing down, it's slow dripping the friendship process, if that's what you want to call it. You know what I'm saying?
But also, Brian is the only person that knows 100% of me.
He knew 100% before marriage?
Yeah. And even if he didn't know it, it was because it wasn't because I was afraid to tell him. It was because I just hadn't been able to tell him yet. But he's the only person that, without hesitation, I would tell anything to. Like, over my sister, who I tell everything to, you know, my mom, who I'm close with, my dad, who I'm close with, my brother, who I'm close with, like, my close friends. Brian is the only one that knows like 100% all aspects of me. And that is so freeing to me. And like it's a security that you know me and all my faults and flaws and are still 1,000% there for me. And it's the same for him. You know, he shares whatever with me and there's no judgment. There's conversation that comes with it, or just things that I just want you to know about me. And so I think that there's validity in holding like that, because it's not like day one I was like, yeah, here's everything about me. But if you can get to that other side where you can actually open up to somebody, that's an amazing experience.
I want to get Brian up here. Now I'm thinking about, I want to hear both sides of the coin, because it'd be so interesting, because I want to ask him questions like, you know, how do you get to a point where, right, like, because I'll be honest, like, there's some things that people tell me and then my judgment panel comes up. Oh.
Right?
Red flag. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure you told him some red flag shit and he was just like,
1,000%. And like, let's work through this. Let's have a conversation about it. But it's not this, where are my keys?
Right. Let me get
I've
seen this shit before.
We got a boogie gang.
Right. What's the Scooby-Dooby-Doo sound effect? Get out of there. I got a soundboard down here. I got to put that on the soundboard so I can hit that when needed. All right, so listen. So fantastic conversation. I apologize for not telling you that the video started, but I do that from time to time. But we gotta run this back, because there's a couple of other conversations that I feel like we can enter into the discussion that'll be fortuitous. So let me try to. You like the SAT word? I've been working on my SAT words. So last thing. So let me try to summarize in what I'm hearing in regards to the benefits of marriage. When I took out love and then I put it to more of a contractual agreement, it seems like you agree no particular benefits besides like the taxes, maybe estate planning, will.
And also when it comes to kids, and I mean, I guess like if they're on the birth certificate, then, you know,
there's benefits in that.
If they're on the birth certificate already, then it's less so. But like if you're married, and how like insurance goes, and they're able to have the kids on insurance, there's no question about them getting access to the child if the child is sick. You've got certain rights, you know, when it comes to being able to see your kids and whatnot, but that could be there even if you're in a long-term relationship, if you're just on the birth certificate too. So
yeah, if you get a good lawyer, you can sign over power of whatever in order to make sure that people have access to your assets should something happen to you.
What a sad way to think about marriage.
Well, so the thing is I like to break things down. I mean, you know how I think about things from time to time. Like I like to break things down to a level to really understand, like, if there is no benefit to me, at least let me try to understand the benefit. And that's why I like asking people that have got into that contractual agreement in order to understand kind of what was the thought process that went in to not only provide that unity, but also sustain or not sustain, because I've had divorced people come here as well, and I got some more coming soon, so they can talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that was a good summary. Any additional points? I think you hit on a lot of the conversation. You're the first non-traditional person when considering relationship, because generally in the Midwest is a lot more of a traditionalist view and mindset of like, what is a man's role, what is a woman's role, and you just like,
it's what's Amber's role, what's Brian's role.
That's real. That's real.
And I think that's part of your issue that's getting wrapped up. Marriage equals that tradition. And there are some traditional aspects that, like, I wanted a wedding, I wanted the ring, I wanted to be proposed to, but then that's where it stops. You know, it doesn't mean that now you have to buy us this house with a white picket fence and we're going to get our dog and we're going to have 2.5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're building this life that is good for us. And, you know, we'll go from there. But to set up to say I'm getting married and then that means that I have to do this and you have to do this. No, that's not something that I was willing to sign up for.
And I think, like, in my mind, it's, you know, a woman can say, you know, I want this, I want that, and there's particular benefits associated with everything that you want. And then I say, well, what's the benefit for a man?
So part of it, like, making me happy.
I'm sorry, I probably should have laughed that loud. I'm sorry.
And, like, directly in my face, but whatever. Part of it, like, I want for Brian to be happy. He wants for me to be happy.
So he's happy if he has you. So that's the benefit to him.
And that he has me and that I'm happy, that he made me happy. You know,
Cool.
when I can do things that, like, that is going to make Brian really happy. Like, I want to do those things. But it... You are so in this headspace of, like, what's in it for me?
Yeah. I do that for, I mean, if I go buy a car, I'm like, why is this car better than that car? And do I even need a car? Why don't I just take a bicycle? You know what? How much does Uber cost per month? And I rank and I prioritize and I stack and I make my life more efficient.
That is an inanimate object.
Yeah.
A human is a human. You know, like, that's your partner. There's push and pull. And just as much as you're saying,
if I go get a
what's
haircut,
in it for me, she is also saying, what's in it for me?
Well, I think
so what are you bringing to the table?
Well, the thing is I think you don't need to have a whole discussion
What?
about bringing to the table.
What?
I think let's talk about it. I'm gonna cut this off, and then we're gonna do a proper introduction for the next video, and then let's talk about bringing to the table. What does a man bring to a table? What does a woman bring to the table?
Okay.
Let's go from there. Questions, comments, concerns. Y'all already know what to do. I'm sorry to introduce you in the beginning, but you started talking. I was just like, play. Let's just play.
I wonder when he's going to start this recording.
Right, because it was good conversation.
Anyways.
Appreciate you for stopping by and sharing your thoughts. We're going to start it up again here in a second. MediocreTourismReviews@gmail.com. Leave a comment down below. What y'all think? Let me know. Let Amber know. I'm going to send you the video so you can see the comments. All right? Until next time, YouTube. Pardon my masculinity. Peace!